Welcome to episode 41 of the West Aurora 129 podcast. I'm Superintendent Michael Smith, and we're excited to continue this season's focus on the remarkable building leadership in West Aurora School District 129. Today, we will dive deeper into the stories and dedication of the leaders who make a difference every day. One such example is Jewell Middle School, named after former Superintendent Gary Jewell, who retired in 1993 and left a lasting legacy of student-centered education. That commitment lives on today through the leadership of Principal Tim McKenna, who joined us now to share more about the school. Welcome, Tim.
Thanks for having me.
Also with us from our second school, named in honor of our nation's first president, Washington Middle School embodies the spirit of its slogan, once a general, always a general. Here with us today is Principal Marchel Rogers, who leads the charge in bringing this motto to life every day. Welcome, Marchel.
Dr. Smith, it is a pleasure to be with you.
All right. Good to have you both.
All right.
Now, let's get into it. Both of you have an extensive background in education, including years specifically as a dean of students. How did that experience prepare you to step into the role of principal? Tim, why don't you start us off?
So when I started as a dean, actually over at Jefferson, it gave me an opportunity to meet more one-on-one with students. So I think that kind of prepared me into the role that I'm in now, where I get to meet a lot of one-on-one with teachers and different problem-solving skills. Like with the students, it was try to help them through a problem that they're having with their friends, and then with the teachers, it's how could I help them better service their students. So to get that one-on-one with them.
Very good. Marchel, how about you?
I must say, I really loved my years as a dean. I was a dean in District 204. I probably spent 10 years in discipline. And, just having that opportunity to teach about behaviors, model behaviors, come alongside teachers and students to help them to think through decision-making process. I just really enjoyed that part of my experience as being a dean. I mean, everything is new. There's something new every single day. Every day, people get a fresh start. You never know what to expect, and it allowed for me to really dig into what kind of leader I wanted to be. How do I come alongside people to value the person, to separate the behavior from the individual, and even help people, hey, that kid's not bad, that student's making a poor choice, but that student has abilities and gifts that we have to learn to separate. And so, but I would say overall, in looking at the principal position, learning to lean into tough conversations. Just as a dean, you're always trying to have those tough conversations with families and students and staff. And so that has definitely helped prepare me as a principal as well.
Sure. That's good. And as both of you said, you made the transition in talking with students, and a lot of the same strategies you learn are in play as you talk to adults. And really, there is an issue that's presented to us as administrators, but oftentimes the issue and what is presented to us often has an antecedent, and we have to interrogate the reality of that situation to figure out, okay, where did this come from? Right, yeah. And you have to take into account the perspective of the person that you're working with. I like that both of you said, seeing the individual, not just the situation, and labeling the situation, labeling that individual as a result. That's good.
That's right.
Now, part of why we wanted to meet with principals was really understanding what does it look like to be a principal. And Marchel, if we can start with you, what is a day in the life of a middle school principal?
Wow. How much time do we have on this podcast, Dr. Smith?
The abridged version, I guess, right? The Cliff Notes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm still trying to figure that out. Okay. I mean, it's been a joy just to embrace the day-to-day of being a principal. I'm a huge advocate of self-care, and I can't give to other people what I don't have myself. And so I'm an advocate of I have to take care of myself. So in the morning, I just in that natural rhythm of do my morning devotionals, my morning affirmations and things of that nature. I like to go to the gym, get that workout time in, just so I can learn to take care of myself, because I just know the daily grind of the day, and so then I get to the office, get my mindset straight. And then I just try to get myself in a mind frame of being visible, being present, being engaging. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, I really want to have a building where my kids would want to have been, to build a school culture that I would have wanted as a student, and that's sometimes difficult to do, but I still try to have that be the foundation of my decision making and things of that nature. So being visible, being present, being engaging is really what the day looks like, and sometimes that may look like in a meeting with parents or with at the district office. How can I continue to be present and engaging, and wherever I'm at, I try to be there. It's easy to let my mind begin to wander, but man, throughout the day of being a building principal, in the halls and in classrooms and in meetings, how can I be visible, present, and engaging is really, in essence, what that day looks like.
That's good. Tim, how about you?
So I always say anyone who has a middle schooler, they'll understand this comment, that if you do not like repeating yourself 100 times, middle school is not the place for you, because I feel like that's part of half of my day is repeating myself over and over, just, not running in the hallway, make sure we're walking, just constant repeating, because they're 11, 12 years old and they forget. So just going in with that mindset, I like how you said about getting yourself mentally prepared. That's kind of, I have to mentally remind myself that they're middle schoolers. They're going to forget. I'm going to have to say it 100 times, and that's just the way that it's going to be.
Sure.
And I always heard the expression, when you're a principal, you wear many different hats. And I understood what that meant, but I don't think I really understood what that meant until I became the principal and I thought there were maybe, what do they mean? 10, 15 different hats. No, it's like 30 different hats that you have to wear. So in each day you may have to wear 6 or 7 of those. And sometimes you just got to put on 2 different hats. So that's what I love about it, is every day's new and exciting. Every day brings new opportunity. And I just love that. I don't like being the robot. It does the same thing over and over. So that's why I loved middle school from the start. And that's why I like this position.
No, that's good. I can appreciate both of you essentially talked about being present and the idea that being present, in order to be effective when you're present and in the moment, you have to take the time to prepare yourself so that you're ready to adjust to what the situation calls for.
Yes.
And that's a glimpse into the role of the principal. Any leadership role, but specifically the principal, you could be saying slow down at the same time having an instructional conversation a minute later, coupled with opening milk cartons or handing out something in the lunchroom. So it's whatever the moment calls for, in whatever hat. There are many of them that we keep in the closet that you need to put on based on what the situation calls for.
That's right. Yeah.
And both of you highlighted this, but we wanted to ask a specific question related to the fact that you all are in your first year as principal. As much as you're telling us what it's like to be a principal, you're kind of figuring it out yourselves.
That's right.
as we go forward. Now, the question being, now that you've done this, we've made it past the first quarter of the school year specifically, is it looking like what you thought it was going to look like? Tim, what do you think?
I honestly, not to sound like cliche, I think it's looking better than I anticipated. I knew at the start of the year I had my work cut out for me. We have 4 administrators in our building that are all doing a different role. I have 2 administrators that are first year administrators, and then 1 who is now in her 3rd year. So when you look at the experience of the staff that I inherited, we were all brand new and doing a different role. So I knew there was going to be lots of road bumps and hiccups and figuring each other out, figuring out staff needs, and staff figuring out which administrator is doing what and who do I go to with what. So I'm actually extremely happy with the way that my team has responded to that. I think our administrative staff is doing an excellent job. I think we are ahead of where I thought we would be at this time. I thought our growing pains were going to be it's going to take a little bit more time to show, but I just feel like we're off to a great start. I'm very pleased with where we are. Our teachers have responded phenomenally. Like, I couldn't be more proud of our staff and our students.
That's good.
Talking to our students, I have more students now say how they're so much happier to come to school this year. And that's kind of the culture, going back to what you were saying, a place where you would want to go to school, right? So it made me feel great that we're all working together and our students want to come back to school now.
Sure. Marchel, what do you think?
Wow.
You got it all figured out, huh?
Oh my goodness. It's trial by fire, and I think that's where growth really happens anyway. Growth happens typically in chaotic environments. Not to say that Washington is chaotic. I repeat, not to say that Washington is chaotic. But
public service announcement. You got that covered.
But I got some internal chaos within me, of just wanting to do the best that I can do, and definitely with having a new admin team. I mean, 2 of my admin have never been admin before, and one is from out of the district and came in and man, they just came in and they are doing an amazing job of having ownership of their department, and learning how to lead, So thankful that our team was able to go through a John Maxwell book this summer on high road leadership. That is not a plug for John Maxwell, but man, we were able to go through that over the summer just so we can kind of eliminate some of those hiccups of just leadership in general, And so I'm just so thankful for how the admin team has stepped up, how they're leading, how they're communicating, and really how they're just embracing the Washington culture. So there were a lot of unknowns going into this position, but the knowns, I would say, outweighed the unknowns. In other words, like I knew that I had amazing staff in Washington. We have teachers there who just love being a Washington middle school. Had the privilege of knowing a lot of our families and a lot of our students, and so kind of knew what that was going to look like, and even just knowing who I am as a leader, and being able to lean into my own personal strengths, and so those are the things that I kind of knew and was leaning into. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of unknowns as well. That I'm sure that's going to be a question, as far as how we kind of embrace some of those things. But I'm just so thankful that the foundation of Washington from leaders before me have really set a strong culture that I was able to step into and embrace. And I'm so thankful for the Washington culture.
That's good. That's good. And what I hear from both of you and what I have seen as I've watched you step into these roles in your first years is you have a healthy respect for what the role calls for. I've not seen demonstrated in either one of you the idea that you're walking in as a favor to the schools that you're leading. They're benefiting from your leadership, but you have a healthy respect for the work that you need to do every day to build the cultures and the teams that you've inherited. So thank you for sharing that. Now, we can't ask a new principal about how is it going without asking, all right, what surprised you? What came around that corner that, I'm responsible for that, huh? Is there anything? Or like I said, you guys have it all figured out and there's no surprises left?
There's plenty. And two come to mind. One is, and I think it's an organizational leadership type thing, but like the higher a person goes in the leadership hierarchy, if you will, like the less they know, and so I realized that
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no doubt. As a superintendent,
acknowledgement of what I don't know in the superintendent seat. So thank you, Marchel.
It is so true though, and so I'm getting used to allowing people to make good decisions themselves and empowering other people. Say, you decide, like, you in essence know more about that than I do. Like you're the expert of that. Like I may have authority over that because I'm the principal, but I don't have the expertise within that, And so I'm trying to be willing to give things away, even though people may come to me for answers and questions. A lot of times it's just empowering people to go ahead and make that decision because you're really the expert within that field.
Sure.
You're the expert in that department.
Sure.
The last thing I will say that really caught me off guard is just really the weight of my words as the leader of the building, and I knew as a dean even per se in Washington that people really hang on to those words, right? But man, as a principal, my words are weighty and they can really cause someone to believe in themselves and be encouraged, or my words can, they can derail somebody, and so I'm trying to learn to be super cautious of my sarcasm, super cautious of my off comments, even though maybe as a dean I was able to have different comments and different jokes or whatever. As a principal, I'm trying to be very cautious of my words and the things that come out of my mouth because they hold a lot of weight.
That's good. Thank you. Tim, what do you think? Any surprises?
The biggest surprise I mentioned earlier was with how well my administrative team is responding and how well our staff has responded to us. So I knew that was going to be a challenge coming in with that. And I just feel like they just responded so well. And not too many things are surprising me right now.
That's good.
Get back to me like in Christmas time and see what happens.
All right. We'll revisit that question.
Right.
But it sounds like pleasantly surprised, but yet very thankful in how much your staffs have stepped up.
Yes.
In terms of moving forward under your leadership and having the space for them to do that.
Yeah.
You could be telling a different story about I have to do everything, but that's not what I'm hearing you guys tell us.
Yeah.
As much as you're leading, you're providing opportunities for leadership, which is great, and an effective practice to carry as you move forward. As we look to kind of round out some of our time, I didn't want to miss the opportunity to look at your families specifically. And Marchel, if I can start with you, you have 2 high school graduates graduates that are, I guess, offshoots of your family, having gone through as a parent, with one more still at the high school, ready to graduate this year. What insights has being a parent of students in our district afforded you as you think about leading? And I know you hinted about that a little earlier, but I just want to give the space for that question directly.
No, I love that you had that question in here, because I was a parent of 129 before a staff member, and I had the privilege, and I'm a crier, so hopefully I don't break out in some tears here.
Okay.
But man, I've had the privilege of my kids going through and having some phenomenal leadership, over at Hill Elementary with Cindy Larry. And then Cindy followed my kids over to Herget, and even the teachers within that, Ms. Depler, for example, and Mr. Rich Vernon, and, Mr. Vernon giving my kids Jordans, because he's their PE teacher and he outgrew the Jordans, and my kids coming home and just seeing, I got some new Jordans from Mr. Vernon. I was like, what? Take them back. But anyway, seeing how teachers and principals treated my family. It's the culture of 129. It was easy for me to embrace. Was it perfect? No. But even in education, I have yet to work in a perfect school district, right? But man, I look to see, are my kids being challenged? Are they being engaged? Are they being seen and known? And it's just watching even my daughter at the high school right now, and the people that are speaking into her life in this transitional time frame, all the counselors and teachers. People take time with our students here in 129. They take time for our kids. It's a very large district, but for my daughter to be able to come home and to name drop counselors and teachers that are taking time to speak into her life.
Sure.
Man, that's irreplaceable. And I'm forever indebted to 129 for that.
And to a degree, that's you said it earlier, that's the type of culture you want to foster for those experiencing
100%.
School under your leadership.
That's right.
So I love that. Tim, now, and you can go into the extent to which you're comfortable as it relates to your family, but I know via your family, you have a unique perspective on education. And I'd be curious if, to the extent that you're comfortable, how that has shaped you as a leader.
Yeah. So it's hard for me to, give a little background then. So my son has cerebral palsy. So I've been learning the whole IEP system as when I was currently just a teacher at the time, and then went into administrator. And it's hard for me to take that lens off whenever I am looking at any decision that I'm making as an assistant principal or now as a principal. I always have to remember that in the back of my head. And everyone wants the best for their kids, right? And then I also have to remember that is still a small population. So when we talk about how can we service the majority of our students with making one decision, it's hard for me to let that aspect go of my brain be like, okay, I would want to make this decision based on my son and his life. However, I got to think more for the bigger picture and for all of the students, but still have that accessibility there for him as well. So yeah, It's been an exciting roller coaster ride with his experience with school. He went to one school for the majority of his time, and then he transferred schools. So, So I look at that when you want to talk about family and how that. So it's hard for me to make any decision now as a principal without keeping in the back of my mind the experiences that he has in school.
Sure.
So,
no, that's good. And again, it's amazing how much our experience, whether it's with your own children through extended family, those speak to the types of leaders we want to be. And both of you talked about the impact of teachers speaking into your kids' lives as they matriculate our system. And Tim, for you make decisions not for the majority, but the focus is what opportunities are we providing access to all students, knowing the perspective that you have seen through your son's eyes, which is tremendous. Both of those have lent themselves to the quality of leaders that the two of you are. And so we have talked about defining ownership amongst our leadership team, or outlining what it looks like, feels like, and sounds like. Each staff member matters in District 129, and as such, we are all called upon to do the work needed in order to support the education of our district students. A question that I'm going to ask every guest that comes to the podcast, and one that I want to present to the both of you, is what does ownership look like as a building principal? Marchel, if you could start us off.
Well, when I think about ownership, I think about carrying the emotional weight of the building. of the people within the building, of the families within the building. I think about that, the KYP, knowing your people, knowing the students, the staff, the families. It's about knowing the pulse and the culture of the building. Because we're always willing and wanting to be around people. And I think about knowing the way and showing the way and doing the best that I can be as a leader to be clear and concise and convicted about the direction of the school and where we need to go. And just being very transparent at when we're doing that well. And when we need to be better at that. And when I think about ownership, those are the things that come to my mind.
That's good. That's good. Tim, ownership, what does that look like?
So ownership, I think you can't look at that without just looking at your success stories. You have to look at your failures too. So if we look at, you look at some data from Jewel and you look at test scores and how things go, at the end of the day, as the building principal, I got to take ownership over all of that, right? I have to put our students and our teachers in a position to be successful. And if I don't do a very good job at that, and then we get our test scores back and it shows like, oh, you're not where you wanted to be, then I have to take ownership for that. Be like, all right, where did I go wrong? Where can I give more support to our staff to better service our students? And it's not just, our volleyball team won city championship. Oh yeah, look at that. Like I'm going to celebrate our successes, but that doesn't tell our whole story. And it's hard. I look at it. It's funny that the Bears just happened to have one of their worst defeats, right? And everyone's trying to point fingers and blame everyone. At the end of the day, it comes down to, well, the ownership hired these coaches who made those decisions type thing. So it's top down. So I got to take ownership of everything that goes on. If a student does something, I didn't prepare that student well enough. If a teacher does something, I didn't prepare that teacher. So I do take that. And that's why when you talk about wearing your heart on your sleeve, you don't want to get emotional. Like everything that happens in Jewel, at Jewel, I take very personally. So that's good. That's a good one for me.
That's good. Again, both of you, I have really enjoyed hearing your stories, hearing what you bring to your roles as principals. And I just want to personally, on behalf of those who have the chance to listen to this podcast, say thank you for your time. So please, I know it's not easy to set aside a few minutes, but again, we really appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for your time, Dr. Smith. Thank you so much.
All right. Please remember that you can find us wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, SoundCloud, and the TuneIn Radio app. I would encourage you to subscribe to our broadcasts and stay tuned for next month's episode featuring the principals of Goodwin and Greenman Elementary Schools. Have a great day.